Everyone in the chamber chose the wrong target. The most lethal individual in the entire scenario was the one nobody even bothered to notice. On the day of the Advanced Threat Assessment examination, I walked into Chamber 7 with the same confidence shared by roughly 60 other cadets, each of us absolutely convinced we had tactical analysis completely figured out. The chamber itself was impressive. I'll give the academy that much. A circular design. Tiered seating spiraling upward like an amphitheater. A central projection platform capable of generating holographic combat scenarios, so realistic you could practically smell burned propellant and fear. Students poured in with the usual chaos. Keans stomped through, their massive frames consuming twice the seating space, because their species had apparently never discovered spatial efficiency. The Vox contingent clicked and whistled in harmonic bursts, chrome-plated skulls gleaming under the lights. A cluster of mindweavers drifted in last, those unsettling telepathic floaters, who always seemed to be listening to conversations you weren't even having out loud. I took a seat midway up. Row 5, aisle position. Good view of the projection platform. Close enough to hear everything clearly. Far enough back that I wouldn't be called on first. Tactical positioning. Was learning. The atmosphere buzzed with competition, that sharp academic aggression where everyone desperately wants to prove they're the smartest being in the room. This exam wasn't just another test. It determined tactical specialization tracks, post-graduation assignments, career trajectories, score high, and command track roles opened up. Advisory positions. Maybe even galactic defense intelligence, score low. Enjoy flying supply routes to mining colonies at the edge of nowhere. So yes, everyone was tense. Everyone focused. Everyone preparing to demonstrate their intellectual superiority. Well, almost everyone. 3 rows ahead of me, seated dead center in the row nobody liked because escape was impossible, sat a human. Dark hair pulled into a simple tail. Standard academy uniform. Slouched posture like she was waiting for an especially dull lecture to end. Her datapad lay unopened in her lap. Her eyes were half-lidded. She looked bored. Almost asleep. Her name was Kira Chun. I knew because we'd shared exactly one class during first-term basic xenobiology, and she'd spent the entire semester looking exactly this uninterested while somehow ranking in the top 5%. Humans were like that. They could appear completely disengaged and still absorb information like cognitive sponges. But here's the thing, nobody was worried about Kira. The Krellians didn't assess her as competition. The Mindweavers didn't skim her surface thoughts. Even the Vox, who analyzed everything as a potential threat, looked straight past her. She was human, yes, but humans were still relatively new to the galactic stage. 50, maybe 60 years since first contact. Decent technology. Academy acceptance. But military dominance? That wasn't the human reputation. They were known for artists, musicians, philosophical weirdos, exceptional medics, surprisingly good food, tactical mastery? Not really. So Kira Chun sat there in row 3, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else, while every single cadet, including me, dismissed her as irrelevant. I remember thinking it clearly. At least I'll score higher than the human. Yeah, about that. The main doors opened, and silence fell instantly. Commander Thrace entered. DORVATH, Ion. Which meant biological tank. 3 independently tracking eyes, and absolutely zero tolerance for stupidity. His combat record was legendary. 43 campaigns, 16 decorated operations. Rumor claimed he once held off an entire boarding party with a broken plasma rifle, officially classified as creative problem-solving. He didn't walk to the platform. He stomped. Each step echoed like a countdown. Seated. He barked, even though we already were. Datapads active. Recording protocols engaged. 60 screens lit up at once. Thrace's 3 eyes swept the chamber, lingering just long enough on each cadet to make them uncomfortable. When his gaze passed over row 3 over Kira, he paused half a second longer than necessary. I noticed that I didn't understand. Not yet. Today's examination is simple, Thrace announced. You will be presented with a conflict scenario featuring multiple potential hostile actors. Your task is to identify the individual posing the greatest threat. Explain your reasoning. Propose a neutralization strategy. Simple enough. You will be graded on accuracy, depth, and strategic thinking. 90 seconds per presentation. Random selection. His mandibles clicked. Choose wisely. The holographic projectors activated. The scenario loaded. In row 3. Kira finally straightened. Her eyes opened fully. For just a moment, boredom vanished, replaced by something dangerously close to amusement. The projection resolved into a devastated urban zone. Collapsed buildings. Broken streets. Limited visibility. Ambush points everywhere. 7 individuals stood scattered throughout the wreckage. Commander, Thrace gestured. 40 minutes post-failed orbital bombardment. Multiple factions converging. Civilian evacuation incomplete. Infrastructure compromised. Identify the greatest threat. The room exploded into frantic analysis. I focused on the figures. Shock Trooper with a Mark 7 plasma cannon. Vox Sniper elevated 3 stories up. Scarran Berserker armed with vibroblades. Mindweaver Coordinator. DeLorean Scout. Dorvathian Combat Engineer. And finally, a human medical officer. Exhausted. Sitting on rubble. No visible weapons. I dismissed them instantly. So did everyone else. In row 3. Kira leaned back, arms crossed, watching us with something that now looking back felt like secondhand embarrassment. Presentation after presentation followed. Everyone picked the obvious threats. Everyone sounded confident. Everyone was wrong. Then Commander Thrace spoke again. Student Chun. The room froze. Please share your assessment. Kira stood slowly. Smiling. Not friendly. Predatory. What followed was the systematic destruction of every assumption we had made. One by one, she dismantled every obvious threat. Weapons, positioning, biology, doctrine. Then she said it. The greatest threat in this scenario is the exhausted-looking human medical officer that none of you even considered. She proved it. Then Thrace told her to demonstrate. And in 34 seconds, she showed us exactly how 6 heavily armed combatants would die before realizing they'd underestimated the wrong person. When it was over, the chamber was silent. Commander Thrace nodded. Humans don't win with superior numbers or technology, he said. They win because they lie. They deceive. They weaponize your assumptions. I looked at Kira Chun differently after that. She wasn't bored. She had been evaluating us the entire time. The lesson burned itself into my mind. Never assume the quiet one isn't dangerous. Never trust appearances. And never underestimate a human who looks like they're just waiting, because they are. They're waiting for you to finish being wrong.